Hello, community. It's a great day. My name is Sheila Hardy, and I'm the founder and CEO of Because It's Personal. And here with me is my co-host, Ericka. I'm on fire, and you can't stop me now. Scott of Life Changers, Inc. And this is the Community Nonprofit Network Podcast, aka CNN. Our motto is, where your nonprofit shines. Hey, Ericka.
Hey, Sheila, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing good. Our topic for the day is innovative ways you're allowed to use your nonprofit donations and grants. So what do you think about that topic?
That's interesting, and I love that we started interviewing guests on the podcast and then started coming up with things, but we won't do a guest this week. We won't do a guest this week. And because we have so many things that we really didn't need a guest for. So folks, we will start bringing in guests again soon, but as soon as we finish discussing what we want to discuss on our Just Us episodes. I love our Just Us episodes. I love our podcast guests, but our Just Us episodes, I think, are really insightful. And we touch on things that we don't talk about in the many hours that we're on the phone. So let's go for it.
I totally agree with that. That is really cool. Well, our listeners need to know that, one thing about it is Ericka is very seasoned in a lot of topics where I am not. So, if that's the case, so if some of my questions, are a little bit like, she doesn't know that, you're right. I don't know that. So anyway. It's
to help the audience though, because we're not the only ones. For one, there are people way more seasoned than me, but there are people who, are still in there thinking about starting a nonprofit, or how do I even start a nonprofit? So you know way more than you think. Don't let her fool y'all, folks. Don't let her fool you.
Oh, okay. Anyway. Okay. Well, anyway, like I said, our topic is really, really cool. One thing about it is, if you don't have your 501c3 yet, Ericka, what do we do with the donations? Like somebody said, you know what, I want to give to your program because I think your program is really awesome. I want to give, but I noticed that you don't have your 501c3 yet. How do we do this?
Well, that's an easy answer. In if they're donating on your website, then on your website you should have in your footer that our 501c3 application is pending and we fully expect approval, period. And then on the receipt, this donation is not, something like, thank you for your support. Just so you know, this donation is not tax deductible until we receive approval of our 501c3 application, which we fully expect. So you let them know that the application is pending because you're assuming that you have filed the application with the IRS, and just let them know that it is pending and you do fully expect approval. So if it's another thing, if you've been back and forth with the IRS because of your name or something else, but because I told you the lady who set mine up said that she has some applications that are still waiting to be approved 2 years later, and it's for things like their name. So yeah, that's there. But just across the board, we don't have it yet. We expect it to be approved. But until then, this is not tax deductible. And I think that would really become critical information when it's getting closer to the year, because my understanding, disclaimer, I am not a legal professional. I am a businesswoman who's been around for a long time in the for-profit space, and nonprofit has some differences. However, it really boils down to what tax form you file for your nonprofit. But please seek legal counsel a business professional who can tell you this, and if they're wrong, they have some kind of insurance policy to cover it. Because we don't. I'm only sharing with you what I learned, but I don't do this for a living. This is just here to be resourceful for our audience. So, what was your question?
Okay. Well,
I had to get that out there.
Well, that you answered that beautifully. If you don't have your 501c3 yet let your donors know.
Yes.
Now my next question is, let's say I get my 501c3. Do I put that on my website to let people know, oh, okay, now the money that you actually have given us, it's now taxable? Do I send, like an email? How do I let these people know? Let's say I got $1 million. Ooh. And, from different people, and it came up to $1 million. I got so many people. What do I do? How do I let them know? Okay, now it's taxable. What do I do?
Now that it's tax deductible? Yeah, that's a great question. And that's an awesome way to follow up and to get more donations, right? So how I would handle that, I would send out another receipt with the tax, because on the receipt, again, it's going to say this is not tax deductible. The new receipt will say this is tax deductible. Somebody else may say, yeah, well, they may use both, and instead of that $1 million, now they're trying to write off $2 million, which we all know you can't do. But, okay, I'll say this, unless it's, unless you make that much money to where that's 10%, getting deeper. But I would suggest sending them, here is your receipt for your tax deductible donation, and we would love for you to continue supporting our mission.
Okay. Actually, it came up to a total of $1 million. I just had a whole bunch of people just giving. So
okay. That's right. You did say that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. But that's what I'm talking about, because it's like, oh my God, what if I got about 200 people? I'm just saying, 200 people and they gave. And now I got yeah, wow. Okay. That's good to know. That's good to know. All right. The next question, I'd like to know is, can you use a Cash App for fundraising?
Yes. And let me just, one thing I should have said in the last question, if you are receiving money, by the time you get like your 5th donor, supporter, corporate sponsor, whatever, you should really have an email list, right? So, in the email list, depending on how techie you are, or you have a teammate that's techie who can do this, the email list will make it easier for you to get everybody at once. If they were able to, put in, they donated $1,000 and for this one. And the only thing that they're changing for that whole email list of donors and supporters is that now it's tax deductible. But the email, technical part of it would put in the amount. Or you can just say, thank you for your donation, is now tax deductible. And then you don't have to worry about putting in a dollar amount. But the whole point is, all 200 people, you're just hitting send one time. Done.
Oh, wow.
Did that make sense?
Oh my gosh. That's just awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So get that email list going, folks, because no, you're not trying to email individuals. So now, I'm sorry, what was that question?
No, I just wanted to piggyback on that, because that's working smarter, not harder, which is really, really good. Because I think we need to talk more about working smarter, not harder, in this, because it's a lot of stress if you're stressed and don't know how to do certain things. Right. So yeah, I get it. That's really great. So now the next question is that, can you use a Cash App for fundraising? Yes.
Cash App does not require that you prove that you're a 501c3 like Facebook and PayPal for nonprofits. You can just set it up as a business account or a professional account. They call it a professional account. And the reason why is because they now charge you, and I believe, don't quote me, but I believe, folks, it's 3%, which is pretty much the going rate. So I believe that's what it is. Yes, tax deductible, because that is considered a bank fee on your taxes. Last I did taxes, that was a few years ago, so I don't know if they changed the line item name, but that was considered a banking fee. So
yes. That's really good, because if you know you can get that money back, not right away, but you can get that money back, go for it.
Well, you can't get it back. So understand this, and please seek your tax professional. But a tax write-off means that this money will be deducted from your gross so that you don't pay taxes on that. That's different than a refund where they're giving you this money back. That's not the same thing. That just reduces your tax liability on what you're going to pay. So if we were regular 1090 W-2, it's been so long since I've been one, say a regular W-2 employee, and we filled out a 1040, and we grossed $100,000, okay, and you're in a 30% tax bracket. Well, you do that math, but you have deductions. So instead of being taxed 30% on $100,000, now you have $10,000 in deductions, not refund, but deductions, just like this banking fee I'm talking about. Now you're being taxed at 30% on $90,000 instead of that $100,000, because you had $10,000 in deductions. So you deduct it from your gross so that you're taxed on that new gross, and that's that AGI, adjusted gross income. And this was not meant to be any kind of discussion about taxes, but Sheila, you're asking me these questions.
Oh, this is good. This is good. But anyway, yeah, this is really good. Also, what if I wanted to do a GoFundMe?
Okay, so now GoFundMe, and y'all know we do these shows. Sheila shoots me like a couple of questions. She did not shoot this one out, or else I would have said, hold on, let me Google it. So we are actually in the midst, we paused it. So we were actually looking for those. Those are called crowdfunding sources, crowdfunding. And that is, you put up a campaign, you name it, this project, you name it, you describe it. The most outrageous campaign I heard was years ago when GoFundMe was, I think, the only or one of like maybe 5. Now there's dozens of them. And this kid, I want to say in like San Francisco, his project was he wanted to make some kind of chili pancakes. I mean, folks, you can do what you want with this. And he said he wanted to raise, I think it was $100 to do this. Oh my word. He raised, I want to say it was tens of thousands of dollars to make these pancakes. Whatever this food was, he wanted to make this, and people get into these things, they have throwaway money. That's what I call it, throwaway money. And so your campaign as a nonprofit, if you have a program you want funded, for one, some of these may make you show that you are a 501c3, so that the people who support your program or project, they know that they're getting that tax deduction, right? But then I think Kickstarter is one, and I could be wrong, so do your own homework, do your due diligence. I believe Kickstarter is one of the crowdfunding platforms that will let you make a project and not have your 501c3 in place yet.
Wow, I did not know that. That is awesome. That is really something. So let me ask you this: if I'm still staying on the I guess you call it the crowdfunding?
No, crowd, like a crowd of people.
Oh, crowd. Okay, crowd,
Yeah.
because you get in the crowd. Okay, gotcha.
Yep, there you go.
Okay, so you got this crowdfunding. Now, you don't have to have your 501c3, correct?
On all of them, no.
Okay. And so that way, so how do you, when you get this money, this is interesting because when you get this money, it's like, okay, do I tell the person that's doing my accounts and everything like that, okay, this is just money that's coming in? How do I do that? What do I do? Unless you know, if you don't know, that's okay. But,
well, you would do it, just like you would do a grant, that money. Okay, let me just give a quick synopsis of how these crowdfunding things work. So you put up there, I want this much money, and you have to make that. There has to be crowdfunding for that much money. So I want $1,000. You have to make at least $1,000, or else you don't get the money. Okay, so $1,000 and up, and you get that $1,000 from, say, 5 people, each gave $200. Okay, so you're going to have their names. You're going to have their information so that you can send them either some crowdfunders like the pancakes. I think he said he's going to send a picture to each of them. You know, there's something you can promise in return for their contribution. So your accountant or, you know, whoever's doing your books or you would put those in as Jane Doe, John Doe, you know, Susan Pickens, whatever, with this much money, the date, so forth and so on, which of course you'll already have their information because you sent out really cool thank you cards. So in the books, yes, you're going to put Kickstarter, you know, this money came from Kickstarter. Kickstarter is one of those that doesn't charge up front. They take their fee off the back. So out of that $1,000, I think they might be 3% as well. Like I said, this is like an industry thing. So now you're getting $970, 3%, $970. And that's what you'll put it. So you'll put $1,000 and then Kickstarter fee will go in as $30 because that's your 3%. And then the other $970 will be put in as, you know, a line item for your net from that project, that crowdfunding project.
Wow, that's some good information. I didn't even know you knew that. This is great.
Yeah, I started researching crowdfunding. I want to say while I was waiting for my nonprofit to come, because we didn't have it yet, and I wanted to see who, you know, would let us do this without the 501c3. So shout out to Sheila Vandenenda, my Ace Boon Coon volunteer, been with me since before the nonprofit even started. And she did all that research because, like I said, there's dozens of these companies, and you got to read for who charges up front, who charges on the back, what do they charge on the back, and what are the stipulations, and okay, it can only be in the States, or, you know, yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting. Wow. Is there anything other than crowdfunding that you know of that, you know, our nonprofits can utilize? Is that it?
You mean as far as fundraising?
Fundraising, getting money, you know.
Yes. You can, there are a lot of innovative ways to raise money. Online, you can do like live Facebook groups or sales, or, you know, you can do anything you want to do as long as you let people know that you're not a 501c3. So now, do you want to shift over into a nonprofit on a state level versus nonprofit on the federal level?
Both.
Okay. Well, no, we can switch over to that. So a nonprofit, when you set up your SOS, Secretary of State for your state, Georgia Secretary of State, Nevada Secretary of State, you have different types of business entities. A nonprofit has to be a corporation or Inc. It cannot be an LLC. This is in Georgia. I believe it's everywhere, because if you do choose to go to the IRS level, it cannot be an LLC. So, and again, seek professional help. I'm only telling you as I understand it. So why would you be a nonprofit only on a state level? Because a lot of nonprofits are not on the IRS on the federal level, because this is what I've heard. They don't feel the IRS needs to know all that. Because it is, I mean, that 990 tax form that we have to fill out, it asks for just about everything but your firstborn's blood. And a lot of nonprofits don't want to do all that. You have small ministries who don't want to explain everything. And right up the street from here, shout out to Calvary Children's Home here in Powder Springs. I've been supporting them for about 20 years with food. They have very generous donors. They have very, very generous people, private and corporate. Because I asked them, they said, it's not tax deductible. Same thing I've been saying. If you're not a 501c3, you have to let people know. And they let us know. And I said, well, if you're not 501c3, how are you able to stay afloat? I mean, they have this awesome house. I believe it's an 8-bedroom or 10-bed. It's huge, huge. And they do boys and girls. And I think that might be one of the things that they wouldn't be able to do if they were 501c3. I'm not sure. I'm just saying. But, it got picnic tables. I think they sit on about 4 or 5 acres. And they sell trees every, Christmas season. And they do different things. But they're just a nonprofit on the state level, not on the federal level. So you can still do the same thing. The trees, trust me, their trees cost. That is a fundraiser for them. If you want to sell, now, let me say this. You can do whatever you want to do. The way it was explained to me is that if you form a for-profit, and I know this may not be what you were looking for, but I'll just say it real quick. If you form a for-profit under your nonprofit's umbrella, like Life Changers is in the process of doing, that for-profit must be closely linked to what your nonprofit's agenda, mission, and vision are. So I'm going to speak it into existence. Life Changers is a reentry program for ex-offenders, returning citizens, right? So we are looking to train them, employ them, educate, life skills, and all that. However, there is a renewable energy project that we're working on that the trained returning citizens will be funneled into to work down there. That is closely tying these two in, right? So adversely, okay, let's say you're in the arts, right? You're in the arts, you do children puppet shows as your nonprofit. You can't form a for-profit under that nonprofit's umbrella and sell cars. I'm just saying, check it out, but you see how different that is?
Yeah, it's very different.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. But as far as nonprofit, you can do whatever you want to do with your nonprofit. You just it's the tax form and how you report it that makes the difference.
Wow. This is some good information. Wow. Well, what about your staffing? Let's say, I'm just hypothetically saying, if you have a staff, a volunteer staff at this moment, and you just want to be able to, give them a little gift or whatever, can that come out of your budget, or does it have to come out of your own pocket?
My understanding is it can come out of the budget. Again, that would be a line item. So that would be gifts, bonus, or whatever the line item name is for that. There's usually a cap, and I'm not sure, but I think I heard somewhere, again, check with your tax professional, $50 is that gift cap. And I don't believe you can give cash. So you can give something worth that, like a gift card worth $50, something like that, maybe a candle up to $50 in value. But that's my understanding. You can more, most certainly reward them with some kind of gift certificate, dinner, something like that. But there is a cap, so you need to check with your tax professional.
Sounds good. Now, what about celebrating? Let's say at the end, and I'm just hypothetically talking. So let's say the end of the year, everything is going well, and you decide to have a party. And when you decide to have a party, you know what goes into parties where you have food, you have drinks and all that. What can you use can you use your budget on just this party celebrating, or you have to do it out of pocket?
Again, one thing that nonprofits do is they have an annual fundraising event, right? And that comes out of their budget. Not every nonprofit doesn't, but a lot of the large ones do. And and that's for their, not just board members, but their donors to come out and, hang out with them and see what they've been donating to, the progress and the programs and services, and meet some of the participants and stuff like that. So, it makes for a great way to connect and build on that existing relationship, just deepens, that relationship. So, but some of those are like gala events, huge events, and they cost way more than anybody's trying to put out of pocket. So it comes out of a budget, but that is part of, from the donations. So yes, I don't know what the line item is called, but there's a line item in there where they are able to use it. One thing people really, please understand this about your nonprofit, whether you're state or not, because even if you're not the state, you still have an IRS form to complete. The only difference is, are you able to not pay corporate taxes, or are you paying corporate taxes? Depending on which type of 501c3 or which type of charity or nonprofit you are, because, there's more than just a 501c3. Do your research. But who we work with, community nonprofit, organizations, are typically nonprofits under the 501c3, not a private foundation or anything like that. So just so you know, that's how we're answering as a community nonprofit.
Now, what about if you are working with someone that, like with my particular nonprofit, which we're talking about reentry programs and everything like that, and I connect with someone else just like you or whatever, the same thing, and we come together and say, let's do something together. How would that go? What does that look like when it comes down to donations? Do we, like if somebody says, I really like what you guys are doing, and look at us as a one entity, how would we do that? When it comes down to the donations and everything like that, do we specifically let people know, okay, I'm my own entity and Ericka is her own entity? How do we do that? Does that make sense, or?
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Because they do it. It's done every day. For one, for this being a for-profit entity, the CNN podcast, the Community Nonprofit Network podcast, is a for-profit. So this will have its own bank account that you and I will have access to. It doesn't have to be at your bank. It doesn't have to be, it could be a separate, bank 3 or bank C, that we both have access to, The same thing with nonprofits. So you come together. That looks like a partnership agreement, because of course, first you have that verbal. Okay, well, this is great. Oh, that's great. Oh, well, we should get together and make this happen. And then you put that in writing. It's agreed upon, signed on. And what it does is it breaks down, it expounds on your responsibilities, my responsibilities, and monies. How will that be divided? So like this here, right now, we're new, so we don't have any money. We don't have any money to divide yet, but we know eventually, as we do get bigger, we're going to have to hire somebody who does the digital marketing and, the editing and all that stuff, because we're going to be busy. And, so those are the kind of things for the for-profit that will also be the same for the nonprofit. But, so yeah, I would suggest, and again, talk to your tax professional, but or your attorney, whoever, I would suggest getting a bank account that both of you are on, and have a breakdown of, when this money comes in, we need to pay this. When this money comes in, we need to pay that. This is the budget, and this is, what we're aiming for. But we are both going to actively seek donations.
Gotcha. Well, let's move towards grants. Is there anything else you want to talk about before we move towards grants?
No, I would strongly urge, like you say, Sheila, we need to come together. You and I have come together with Caring Moms Inc. Shout out to Maria Bradfield. And that is going to be awesome once it gets started really soon. But there are, like you always say, there are a lot of nonprofits out here doing the same thing, overlapping services and programs come together. I truly believe that a lot of people don't, because they want to be the chief, and there's not enough, there's too many chiefs and not enough Indians. Jesus said it, the harvest is plenty, but the workers are few. And, but I truly believe, like Jesus said, those who are, you have to serve, you have to follow in order to lead. And the Christian in me, the me being a child of God, that's how I live. I live more humble, so I don't care who's on top or whatever. I'm blessed with leadership skills, but I'm also blessed with fellowship skills to be a follower. So, I think that's why there are so many, organizations. I mean, think about it. What do you think, Sheila, would happen if the IRS said, you know what, we have a 10-year freeze on new nonprofits forming?
Wow. If they said that there was a freeze?
Yes.
Freeze like you can't apply?
Exactly.
Or you can't, and so if there was a freeze, then to me, that would be good. Because
right. And that's why I want your perspective. If they said 10 years, nobody's forming any nonprofits right now for the next 10 years. We already have over 1.5 million nonprofits in the country. So what do you think would happen?
That would be great, because the way I think about it as, what is your prime concern? If you're dealing with the homeless, what is your prime concern? Is it the homeless or your nonprofit for the homeless? Okay, let me explain. If my top concern is for the homeless, I need to work with people that can help all of us do the primary goal, is helping the homeless. Bottom line, that's the primary goal. So with that being said, I will contact whoever. Like, okay, we had John Morgan on our program, and he is about the homeless. So if my nonprofit is the same, we can connect where we say, okay, let's connect our ideas, let's do this, let's get some land or whatever. And then you are actually helping, or you are actually doing something for the homeless right then and there, because when you're unified, in my opinion, things go faster. You might think of certain things that the other person didn't think of.
Right.
And it's like bam, 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 because unity is power. So that's where I am in that area. You unify. I think this is the great thing about it. When you work together, you get more things done.
Right.
And so yeah, that would be really awesome.
Well, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they did, because there are so many out here, and we still have the same problems. Yeah. You know, it's almost like my personal perspective on government. I'm not like an anti-big government, but when you look at it, it's like, okay, we're meeting to meet. Nothing's getting done. You know, I'm glad about the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, and ARPA, American Recovery Plan Act, actually going into place. But look at how long it takes to get these things done. You know, I think if you have two nonprofits, 2 or 3 nonprofits the heads of the nonprofits come together, I think you would get a lot of things done, as opposed to 10, 15, 20 of them, because now we're meeting to meet. Nothing got done in this meeting, so now we're rescheduling. You know, things get pushed down. So I just think less is more, and I use that for my decorating, for decorating my house. Less is more. My mom taught me that. But yeah, as far as decision makers, you know, being involved, I think less is more. But you can get so much more. You know, that homelessness problem would be, I think, done. Like, you remember when, you know, there were homeless people out here, and you remember when that homeless guy, you know, he's now working up the street. He drives, you know. So I think you're right. That would be a good thing.
Right. Well, it's always been, it's always been like that, where it's like we got all these people trying to get money from the same donors, and it's like, well, if I get money from that donor, you get money from that donor, another person gets money from another donor, and we come together and work together. Hey,
right?
You know, I mean, right. It's just, to me, it makes sense. However, that's why my life coaching business is called Common Sense. But anyway, it just makes sense to me. And it's nothing, to me, we try to make things harder.
Right.
And instead of smarter. And, you know, I get what God, you know, Jesus was saying, that you're going to always have the poor.
Right.
Because the people that can actually fix it, they can't come together. Now, that's right. How I looked at it. That's how I looked why he said that, because he talks about you're going to always have the poor. It's going to always right. be. So, are we fighting a battle that we can't fight? Well, you're going to always have the poor, but you still need to fight. You still right. need to come together. So I get it. I understand what he's trying to say. Okay, we're going to go to the grant area. Okay. And my thing is that, can you apply for grants, which you already said, but, you know, elaborate a little bit more, that, you know, I don't have my 501c3 yet, but you were telling me concerning about the Walmart incident, or not incident.
Yeah. Well, Walmart, you have to have your 501c3. What I was referring to was on, if you have your 501c3 and you go to walmart.org, which is their, you know, just in case you don't know, .org is a nonprofit. So you have walmart.com, that's where I do my grocery shopping, but then you have walmart.org, which is where you apply for grants through their charitable giving. And they, as many large companies do, they use a third party, which is cybergrants.gov. and they have the Front Door Project. Now that's all changing names as of this recording, August 2022. So it may be something else, but you go to walmart.org and you read through, and at the end it will say, have you registered with whatever that is? If you have not, click no, and it'll tell you, it'll take you where you need to go. What I was mentioning though is when I first applied for this walmart.org through Cyber Grants Front Door Project program, and you're going down the list of, it's like an application. So you're going down and you have to click on the down arrow when it says type of entity. And I'm like, thinking it's going to say nonprofit or for profit. And it says you can type in you got to choose 501c3. Okay. And then it drops down like subcategories. But it took so long just to scroll to the 501c3. I'm like, what are all of these? There are 501, 502, 503, 504. I believe I remember that because it's been a few months, and then you have B's, and I'm like, what in the world? But then, as if 501c3 is not specific enough. It doesn't, clarify who you are, what type of entity you are. Then you have to choose a subcategory. And that one starts with like 7 something. I can't see my page, but that one, so you have to do both of these. I know you have churches. That's one type. You have private foundations. That's another type. So these are all, there are a lot of different types. I just didn't realize there were that many subcategories. But if you don't already have your determination letter for your 501c from the IRS and you look on it, you're probably going to wonder, like I did, what are all these numbers for? The only one I knew 2, EIN, employer identification number, which you get even before you apply, because it comes from the feds, but it's still on the state level, and your 501c3. I didn't know what the rest of those numbers were until I applied for Walmart's grant. Yep.
I tell you, it's really something. It's almost like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, it's almost like they make things harder for you to just say, you know what, this is too much. It's
right.
Too much stuff. I don't even want to deal with that.
Right.
Instead of making it easy, because you would think the system, okay, I know I'm in la la land right now, but you would think that the system would say, you know what, we have a problem here. We need to help people. We need to work together. We need to get people in, in homes and whatever. And it's like, okay, let's do these forms to make it hard for people to help people. That's how I'm looking at it. I could be totally wrong, guys, but this is what I'm seeing. It's like, what else do I have to fill out? Why do I have to
right.
fill all this out? What is this? You know
right.
what I'm saying? And it's like the system. I'm talking about a system. Now, we can change the system if we wanted to. When we come together at unified, we can do that. But it seems as though it's like even when you try to even come together to unify, they'll do something so you can't, or it'll be harder to do
right.
that.
Well, I'm with you on that, especially for Walmart.org. I'm with you there. Unfortunately, we can't do anything to change their system because that is their system. One thing I feel, and this is my opinion, so if you don't like it, just, close your ears for a second. I believe a lot of these companies, it's a business transaction. It is that tax deduction that we were talking about earlier. I don't believe that every large corporation or every large, foundation is really like in this heartfelt mission to change or help or support XYZ, whatever they are giving money away for to support child abuse, sex trafficking, whatever it is. But it is they would rather give it. Okay, let me pause there. Like foundations, as we speak, and double check, foundations either have to give away 5% of their money to charitable organizations, And that's where they make their criteria. We give money for this, we give money for that. Or that 5% goes to the IRS. So of course, a lot of these people, with the money don't like the IRS. That's one thing a lot of us have in common, poor and rich. We just don't like the IRS. They're nosy, they're greedy, and then they don't do their job. That's why we have to pay so much taxes, because there's so many people out there not paying taxes and, blah, blah, blah.
Well, I can understand why we don't like the IRS. Just the information you just gave.
Right. As far as the grants from governments, though, I will have to say, and I'm not, big on, like I said, I'm not big on big government. I think there are a lot of systems. I'm with you on that. There are a lot of systems that should and can be changed. But I'll have to give a shout out to grants.gov. And no, I don't have a grant in the works, and I'm not looking for any special favors. But I remember when I tried to apply for a grant over 20 years ago. And you would think, okay, well, Ericka, that was 20 years ago. Technology. Hey, have you been to the IRS.gov website lately? Oh, painful. But grants.gov makes it so easy to zoom in on and just target a list of grants that you want. So you're in education. Okay, you go to the Department of Education, because you can sort it now by what department of the U.S. government is giving a grant like this. And then to be able to filter and filter and filter. Well, wait a minute, not just from the feds, but from other government agencies. So local, state, what? I mean, it's awesome. Whereas before, you had to go to the library, you had to get out the book and let your fingers do the walking. They're not hiding the money. The money's there. They're not hiding the money. They make it really easy with their database of grants, and I think they're updated like every day.
That's awesome.
It is. It really is.
Wow. That's great. Well, then everybody go to that site, and that's what you do. Just check it out.
Grants.gov.
Grant.gov. That's awesome.
Grants, you can't get any easier than that. What are you looking for?
Can't get any easier.
There you go.
You can't get any easier. And we're about working smarter and not harder.
Not harder. That's it.
So that's
amen.
That's
my muscles say amen. My brain says amen.
Everything in me says amen.
Yes, okay. Yes, Lord.
Yes. That's awesome. And again, we're still talking about grants, and one thing about it is because it's personal, what I would like to do, what I'm thinking about doing, actually been thinking about it for a long time, is the way my program is set up is to connect with grants that deal with statistics. Okay. Because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing innovative ways of working with our candidates, and we want to put out statistics of what works and what doesn't. Right. So, with that being said, you really need to know about your particular nonprofit, your mission, and what you really want to do, and see if you can get more grants that will actually help your nonprofit. So does that make sense? Okay.
It does. And what I know you touched on it, that you are you being Because It's Personal Inc. You are focused on helping with homeless and returning citizens. What exactly are you honing in on with that? What's like your mission?
My mission is actually for our clients or our the people that we're going to be working with not to re-enter the jails or incarceration anymore, to actually equip them, not so much as even having a job, having housing, But we go a little bit further when we deal with the trauma of the person, because once you deal with that trauma, I believe that the person or the persons are less likely to return to jail. That's the real bottom line of making the person a whole person. And when I say whole, being able to deal with what life comes at them. Because once they go out, what I've been researching is once they come out of incarceration, there's a whole new different way of living than just a regular person that's out here. And most of the things that are pushed on returning citizens is not likely what would be happening with me. You know, so totally different rules. And so with that being said, that's another push on stress. And so we're going to be working a lot on that. And, you know, we can talk more about that, but, but my nonprofit is it goes a little bit deeper than just housing, just a job. It comes down to dealing with mental health. And, you know, we're going to be using, I'm sure, different types of grants for that also, not just housing, not just jobs, but mental health. So,
and that's so important because that one affects the others, right?
It's all, see, we're a triune being. You know, there's not just this one for the body and not just one for the soul part, and there's parts of us that needs to be dealt with, and you just can't deal with, you know, you may have three things and you just can't deal with the two and not deal with all three. So we're trying to deal with all three that way that, you know, the bottom line is not returning back to the to jails. That's the bottom line. But, you know, to say that, you know what, I feel whole, that's the thing. That's the thing. And
that's that shalom, folks. That shalom, that peace.
That peace.
That joy that surpasses all understanding.
Correct.
Amen.
So that's what you're looking for. And, you know, even people that are not in jail, you're still looking for peace.
Yes. I mean, come on, let's face it. Everybody with a record, by the time they got arrested was not their first time committing any kind of offense, right? So there are a lot of people, just because they're not locked up or have never been in handcuffs, does not mean that they have never committed a crime.
Correct.
So that's a whole nother story. But yeah, there's a lot of people out here, you know, free as a bird, but still looking at the bottom of that bottle for an answer, looking at the end of that crack pipe for an answer, you know, thinking at the end of this Coke line, okay, then I'll have that revelation. But it all boils down to what you said, mental health.
Right. And one thing about it with I'm going to say this and then I'm going to leave it alone. But one thing about it is your environment has a lot to do with a lot of things. And so what I've been researching here lately is the people that are released are going right back to that environment that brought them there to you know, being incarcerated. You would think that makes no sense. It's like you're pushing them back there. Well, it makes sense if you want them to come back. Yeah, it makes sense. If you want it to be a reoccurring incident where they're coming back, okay, I get it. But if you're saying that, okay, within 3 years they're returning, well, why? Why is that? Well, they're going back to, I hate to say it this way and I apologize, guys, but it's almost like they're going back to their vomit. That's what it says in the Bible. And meaning that, you know, there was this one guy that was released and he went back to the same neighborhood and, you know, he used to be a drug addict and he was seeing where all these needles and everything all on the ground and everything. Why
Right.
put him back in that particular, area? So yeah, that's the problem. That's one of the problems. So, because it's personal, the environment has to change, and it is a changing environment. And, that's what we're talking about, the peace. The peace that, you have a place that you can lay your head. You have a job. You can pay your bills.
Yes.
That's peace. When you come up with somebody that wants to be arrogant with you and you know how to deal with them where it doesn't destroy your peace, that's living.
Yeah.
So that's what we, are up to. So, Ericka, what else do we have?
Okay, so, well, let's pause. And first, shout out to Caitlin Ball, who works with Cobb Collaborative. She was a guest on about a month ago. And she came on to tell us, to educate us on voting rights for returning citizens, and spoke about how, I think it's Voice to Vote. Check out that episode. The link to that episode will be in the show notes, so no worries there. But yes, especially right now, it's election season, and it is important for everybody, not just returning, but everybody, to know their voting rights. And I was really floored to find out that they're going into the jails because if you have either been convicted of a misdemeanor and are incarcerated, you can vote. If you have been arrested for a felony but not yet convicted, you can vote. This is like awesome. I also love, you can request an absentee ballot now. I forgot the term she used, but no questions asked. Whereas a few years ago, I want to say, as a matter of fact, I know it was Barack's second term election. I, at the time, was an over-the-road truck driver, and I was not going to be here. I knew ahead of time I wasn't going to be here, and I tried to ask for an absentee ballot and was told no because I'm not handicapped or, some other things. But now I don't have to give a reason. So, I think she called it something like no reason ballot or something.
Yeah, we want everybody to go to that podcast and get refreshed and then give us a like. If you go on YouTube, give us a like on that and you, of course, subscribe. But we give you all the information, and about voting. We need the right people in office so we can do what we need to do. I can't stress that enough. And, Caitlin said that today, and Friday, she, and a ton of other registered drives, and events is set up for the fall. So she was saying that, even some of the schools, the various schools, she has got, volunteers.
Wonderful.
Hey, listen to that podcast. Be a volunteer for Caitlin. I'm telling you, we need it. We need to connect.
Yes.
We need to unite so we can get the right people in office. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm telling you to vote. So we get the right people in office. We can do this.
So, also, yes, Sheila, yes, we want them to subscribe to our YouTube channel, but we also need you guys to subscribe to the podcast. And you can find this podcast on your favorite podcast player. And please subscribe, like, and share. Our website is thecnnpodcast.com. You can connect with us on our Facebook page, The CNN Podcast. You can connect with us on Twitter, where we are online, and we are here if you would like to be a guest on a future episode. please visit our website and click the Be a Guest tab. And we are always looking for advertisers. So if you would like us to shout you out on the podcast and or advertise on our website, awesome. Visit our website, thecnnpodcast.com/advertise, or click that advertise tab, and you can complete that form, and we'll talk about you. So,
okay. And with that being said, our end quote is this: the day you plant the seed is not the day you eat the fruit.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. Wow. That's a whole, I will say this, that really speaks to how you have to operate in your nonprofit. Because, can I translate that into like a nonprofit scenario?
Go for it.
The day you write the grant is not the day you get the money.
Translation.
The day you ask for the donation is not the day you receive it.
Translation. There you go. Rightly dividing.
Yes, that is awesome. That's why you do that, because you always find the awesome ones. Well, folks, until next time, thank you for listening. And as always, be awesome and be blessed.